What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest. We'll go through the latest Detroit Lions news, and today we have another day of training camp takeaways. Day number 3 is in the books, so let's get it started.
Fired up. It's made a great decision.
Great teammates, coaches, and other people who want to be Super Bowl champions, and we are. We're going to do it this year.
And we're going places, because we want to go places.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. We're back with another Lions update, Lions latest video. Now, I will make this clear. Until I go to practice, I do want to point this out, that these are not my notes from Detroit Lions training camp. I did not attend today's training camp for the Detroit Lions. So these are just notes that I have gathered from different sources via the internet, whether that's Twitter, DetroitLions.com, wherever it may be. So that's where I get these notes from. At the same time, when I do attend Detroit Lions training camp, when it is opened up, I will have my notes that I will share with you guys like we did last year for pretty much every day. But there were some that I wasn't able to, like the beginning, because of course I'm not there. So I just want to make that clear. These are not my notes, but I'll give you guys my thoughts on the notes that we have gotten, or some of them, and also kind of my interpretations from what I'm hearing. Now, today's practice did ramp it up. It sounds like once again, as Dan Campbell said, yeah, it's not going to be like a jog through type of day. It's going to be a full speed day. Now, they're not in pads yet, but I believe starting Monday, the Detroit Lions will put the pads on. If you saw Dan Campbell's press conference towards the end there, he was walking off, and I believe it was Tim Twentyman that asked him, hey, when are you guys putting on the pads? And then it just ended. The stream just ended. But I believe it's Monday is the note that I have found, and that was the answer, is that Monday pads will be going on for the Detroit Lions. So once it's opened up to the public, if you go for those days, you should see the Detroit Lions in pads. Now, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they pull it back. Sometimes they rest. Sometimes all this stuff. But the point is, for the most part, Detroit Lions, I believe, are putting on the pads Monday. I'm assuming tomorrow they'll probably pull it back a little bit as well because they have Sunday off. But we'll see how it all plays out. Point is, we got a lot of things to discuss. Some small roster moves. Also some injury updates. Some observations from practice. And some takeaways from Dan Campbell's and others' press conferences. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with the participation report and some of these injury updates. One guy that has been taken off of this list was under the NFI list, and that was Natrez Patrick, the linebacker that we signed this offseason. We have not seen him play in a Lion uniform. He has been waived. Yesterday he was waived as the Detroit Lions went out and signed offensive tackle Darren Paulo to the Detroit Lions roster. Now, the reason I think this is something to keep an eye on is because of the Dan Skipper illness. So he is still on this list. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully, he's feeling all right. But with that being said, him still being on this list, I believe that probably has something to do with the Detroit Lions signing Darren Paulo. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because the Lions had Darren Paulo for a lot of last season. He was there at camp. He was on the Lions practice squad last year. He was also spent a little bit of time with the Denver Broncos. So there is familiarity there with the Detroit Lions, and they have now signed him. I would assume for some depth purposes with a guy that they're familiar with. Natrez Patrick has been waived. Could end up back here, who knows, but at this point he is no longer a Detroit Lion as of right now, so wishing him the best of luck going forward. Continuing with the participation list, we did get some more clarification, or I guess some more updates here, starting off with Devin Funchess, who I guess is kind of a new addition. He's not on the NFI or PUP list. He's just a new addition to the participation report, as apparently he did not practice today. Dan Campbell said that he was dealing with a light groin injury, so there's not like a lot of big time concern there. He just wasn't going to participate in today's practice, so we'll monitor that. We'll see where that goes. It definitely means opportunities, though, and we haven't heard really anything from Devin Funchess, at least I haven't, from practice yet, but it is opportunities for some of these other guys, specifically kind of these receiving tight ends, to really show up. Shane Zylstra's, the James Mitchells, the Derek Deese Jr.'s. Also, Greg Bell, little update here with his non-contact injury that took place yesterday. We discussed that. Dan Campbell said it's like a back/hip kind of injury, and that today they were going to get some more clarification. They were going to get it scanned. They were going to get it checked out. He did not participate once again in practice today for the Detroit Lions. And those are really the only changes that we have to these lists. Otherwise, the rest of it remains the same. We'll keep our eye on it, and when players get taken off of this list, we will update that as well. Now, let's dive into Dan Campbell's presser today. This starts before practice and some of the notes that he gave us. Let's go to the first point that he says is Brad Holmes' birthday. So happy birthday, Brad Holmes. I guess the players sang happy birthday to him after practice.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. There we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Dan Campbell spoke about Amani Oruwariye, who has kind of been locked in. He's a top outside corner as of right now. Meanwhile, with Jeff Okudah recovering from his injury and Will Harris rotating on the opposite side, there have been movement there. But opposite of that, Amani, he's been consistent, and it sounds like Dan Campbell, is pretty sure he's going to be that guy going into the season, and they're very confident with what they have in Amani Oruwariye. He said this: he feels like a vet. He's practicing like a pro. He's confident. He's comfortable. We feel good where he's at his spot this season. So made it pretty clear, like, hey, we feel good with Amani outside corner. We feel good with him being able to hold it down. We'll see what shakes out with the Jeff Okudah, Will Harris thing. I still believe it's going to be Jeff Okudah and how it shakes up depth-wise, but we feel pretty good about Amani holding it down on the outside. And I feel like that's always a good thing. It's something that you always want to have as a team because, I wouldn't necessarily say we've had that for the last few years. It's like, all right, you're confident with, okay, we got this guy on the outside. He's going to hold it down. That's not to say Amani hasn't been good. He was good this past season. The year before that, he actually wasn't that bad either. But to know coming into the year, like, yeah, he can be our top guy. He could be our top outside guy. The rest of it, we'll see how it plays out. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes he's got a lot of talented players. You don't know who's going to win those roles. But to kind of know having some of that confidence coming into the season has to be a good thing. And that's kind of what they made clear here about Amani and just how he's approaching everything. Also, we saw him hitting some golf balls. That looked clean. Hey, look, I'm gonna be honest, man. I would have been awful. Like so you're just walking up there and swinging. My first hit's not gonna be clean like that. On to DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift had a nice little quote that the Detroit Lions put on Twitter, and we'll get to that in a second. But this is what Dan Campbell said about DeAndre Swift. He said, man, Swift looks good. He's in phenomenal shape, which has been something that's been brought up, is that he's come in really good shape. And we know about the Deuce Staley saying, hey, he's got to be able to play hurt for the Detroit Lions. He needs to be able to play through some of that this upcoming season, especially when we start to get in extension talks. We want to see this guy more consistently on the field. But he's like, man, the guy's in phenomenal shape. He said, year one, when we got here and we saw DeAndre Swift, we're like, man, that guy, he is one of the most explosive players on our team. And he continues with this. He said he looks even better this year. However, he did talk about kind of the injury situation because, as I said before, I think the Lions, which is kind of cool, it seems like they've taken some accountability for these injuries. And I'm not saying it's necessarily their fault that these guys are getting hurt, but they're like trying to take accountability. They're trying to say, okay, what if we tried this? Not just like, oh, it was freakish, it happened, that's unfortunate, we move on. Like with Jeff Okudah, hey, we're trying to find a way to get the injury bug off of him. We need him to play. So we'll take some of that on. We got to find a way to make sure he's right. Maybe that's rotating him in, working him in slowly, whatever that is. And with DeAndre Swift, they're saying, well, maybe some of what happened last year and how kind of towards the end of the year started to tail off, injuries started to come up, the shoulder injuries could have began all back in training camp. Because if you remember, DeAndre Swift in last year's training camp missed about a week and a half, 2 weeks of training camp. He didn't practice much in training camp last year, yet they felt like they had to use him more than they wanted to week one because of the position that they were in, because of how much they were trailing, that, he made the big play against San Fran, but maybe it started back there, not having him necessarily build up the football stamina, if that makes sense. Being in that football shape necessarily. Not to say he's not in shape, but being in the football shape of the taking hits and things like that. And maybe you're putting him into a bigger role than you would like to because of what he's dealing with. And to Rad's point, what he brought up yesterday with Levi, he had this situation last year. He missed a lot of training camp. This is a terrible place to pause the video, but then I even think about week 3 against the Ravens and how big of a part of he was that game in the second half. He basically was the entire offense. DeAndre Swift gave a very good quote. I liked it on Twitter about the Detroit Lions team, and he said this. He said, really, everybody's bought in. It's kind of like a player-led team. I think that's huge, a player-led type of team. Now, Dan Campbell also told us in the press conference this morning that, they were discussing it, they were going through it with the coaches.
I said, man, who do we have on this team that we feel like are pros, just they've kind of got a professional approach about them because we are a young team. And it really came to the point where we said, well, we started going through names, and it's like, well, all right. I said, let me reframe that question. Who do we not have? And that's a good sign. That's a good sign. That means we have very few that we feel like really need to grow up just from their approach to the game, if that makes sense. And listening, being attentive, the way they work, the way they walk through, the urgency, all those things.
DeAndre Swift saying, well, it's kind of like it's like a player-led team. And as we talked about yesterday with Michael Brockers, Charles Harris potentially leading the way and saying, hey, let's go put on a couple of extra reps. Hey, we got 4 receivers after practice putting in work. Hey, today, you got guys like Julian Okwara, James Houston going out there Charles Harris, James Houston putting in some extra work on the pads after practice. This is why people say veterans are so important, but I think there may be also another side to not only just having veterans, but asking of your players and allowing your players to take that control. One thing to have a vet, be like, oh yeah, we've had a guy with a lot of experience, but also to kind of lean on those guys to take over and lead the thing, right? Not everything's got to be through coaches. What did we hear with DJ Chark yesterday? Hey, look, I can go to Goff with the same question I can go to Ben Johnson with. He's got a good comfortability, understanding of the offense. He said a vet. He's basically, I wouldn't say he's a vet in this offense. He's a vet in the league, though, and now he understands the offense much more, and he's working on it. So now you can go to him with questions. And now it's kind of player-led in that way. So, you know, the guys that are out there performing, I think not only is that just having veterans, but it's also kind of the mindset of the team of, okay, these guys are going to have to lead us. These guys have to lead us. These veterans have to take kind of on that role, be accountable. That way it hurts when we lose, and you want to play for the teammate next to you.
We're going to have like a player-led team. Everybody that's in this building is bought into the culture that we build in here and ready to take that next step as the Detroit Lions and this organization to take that next step to get more wins and stuff like that. But as far as me personally, I got to make sure I'm doing everything right myself before I be vocal and try to tell the guy next to me what to do. I got to make sure I'm doing everything right on my own.
I'm going to come back and hit on this with Tracy Walker in an example, but to what DeAndre Swift is saying, I think he's making a fantastic point here because he has to be accountable to himself, because if he's not, then how can he lead these other players? Him being put in this position where other players want to, you know, learn from them and follow these veterans among the team. Well, the veterans then have to take that accountability. And we say veteran, but yes, DeAndre Swift is a young player, but they have to take that accountability on themselves because otherwise that player can't come to them. So it also kind of flips the responsibility back on that veteran. I tell you, it's easy to see through guys that are being like, you know, the fake leaders, where the coach is basically coming through and managing everything. You can see the guys that are kind of trying to act like the veterans and the leaders, but they're really not, because what they're saying is just repetitive of what the coach has said. It definitely still starts from the top. It's like a coach wanting to give off responsibility to assistant coaches that he trusts. He has to instill that trust and give that confidence to the players to go lead, and that's when it becomes well-oiled. He said it kind of jokingly, but he said, you know, last year, you know, weeks into training camp, we were working on stance and punt. You know, that's where we were at. And he said, you know, that's obviously just for special teams. But offensively, defensively, I mean, at one point we had to take it back to the basics because those guys weren't really understanding. So now he feels like they're past that. And again, player-led. Look, the players that have been here. So now it takes it back to re-signing your players. You re-sign the Tracy Walkers. Okay, Tracy Walker understands what's going to be asked of him and what the solid foundation is. Things will change, things will adjust. But what's the foundation, the core of what we're doing? Okay, I can pass that along to my teammates if they need it, which can really speed this process up. And of course, when you get guys working together in the offseason, that can speed the process up versus you're trying to teach everybody, hey, we're trying to do it this way. I mean, we got guys stepping on each other during practice. So I guess just timeline-wise, he's talking about how far ahead they are this year versus where they were, you know, last year. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball with some of these notes and observations that we were given from Lions practice today. Then we'll shift back to the offensive side of the ball. We'll probably bounce around, to be honest. But let's start with the defensive side of the ball. So you start with Aiden Hutchinson. A couple of notes that we were given here, and this is according to DetroitLions.com, that Aiden Hutchinson basically shut down 2 run plays working at the right end position, which would mean working against the left tackle. It's flipped. So working against left tackle, shut down 2 run plays. Now we've heard about all the versatility and the different positions that he's been playing. They said he had a really good edge set, and we've heard about the flexibility, the moving him from the interior, from a 3-tech all the way to the outside, and all the flexibility. Of course, we know about that on pass downs, but the flexibility outside of that. So I think hearing that speaks to kind of what we said yesterday in terms of the role that it seems like Aiden Hutchinson is in, but with the versatility, especially on pass downs, he's being moved probably all over the place trying to find certain matchups. Because with that being said, there was another note that was put out there with the attention that Aiden Hutchinson is getting right now. I guess there was a rep where he was working against Penei Sewell, it sounds like, because on the opposite side, it was a one-on-one for Charles Harris, and he's getting a lot of one-on-ones because they're putting a lot of attention to blocking Aiden Hutchinson. That's what it sounds like. I mean, I'm like a little bit like, oh, that's that. I mean, he must be doing something if he's getting that kind of attention in practice, right? I can see in a game, but okay, he's getting that kind of attention. Charles, meanwhile, is getting one-on-ones, it sounds like, in practice. He's taking advantage. Today, according to Pride of Detroit, he had one of his cleanest pass rush wins that they've said since he's, been a Detroit Lion, beating Taylor Decker to the quarterback. Now, I think we always talk about how good this is for pass rushers and how good it is for these young guys. It's got to be good for the tackles, too. I understand Penei Sewell's development, things like that should be great for him. Hutchinson working against Penei Sewell, that's top-notch against top-notch. I mean, how does it get any better than that? 2 top 10 picks going against each other, that's outstanding. But even Taylor Decker, right? I mean, Taylor Decker's really legitimately getting pushed, and I feel like he's had guys like that to do that in training camp, but to get some elite pass rushers, and I think Aiden Hutchinson is that can really help guys like that just, keep working. Taylor Decker gets it, right? He comes in, he's ready to go. But with that being said, Taylor Decker is, constantly working with these guys. There was some hype put out there about Will Harris and a couple of plays that he made. I guess on back-to-back plays, he had pass breakups, right? So they got into these red zone drills, and again, they continued to rotate. Jeff Okudah was doing team drills. Then they got into red zone drills. He was the one. Then they got into red zone drills. Will Harris went to work outside cornerback opposite of Amani, it sounds like. The first play was against Josh Reynolds inside the 10-yard line. I guess he ran some kind of out-breaking cut within the end zone. Jared Goff went there. Will Harris recognized it, jumped it, broke up the pass. The very next play matches up with TJ Hawkinson. Similar type of route, little bit shorter type of route. So again, I'm assuming it's probably one of those out cuts. One-on-one with Will Harris, that was the matchup. Same thing, jumps the route, breaks it up at the catch point. Like, okay, so hey, now what did I tell you guys? Don't let me start hearing good things about Will Harris, or it's gonna be a problem over here. The excitement is gonna go through the roof. Now y'all got me excited to see this. Now this is what I'm gonna be looking for when I'm there. I'm gonna be like, okay, where's Will Harris and what's he doing? Because now they got me excited. Now they have me excited about him smoothing out his game. And even Amani Oruwariye talked about that he's been working and helping Will Harris a little bit, but Will Harris just understands that, he can play everywhere in the defense, he can play everywhere in the secondary, and now at cornerback, he's kind of like honing in his craft at that cornerback position. Oh my goodness, don't give me good updates about this. I'm telling you, don't give me good updates because it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. My excitement's going to be way too high with this cornerback position coming into the season because I'm telling you, I'm very, very intrigued, and I know I say intrigued a lot, by what Will Harris can be at cornerback. I'm very, very intrigued. And now you're giving me good notes? Stop it. And again, there's nothing against Jeff. I think Jeff is fantastic. I think he's going to be a heck of a player for our team. I had him as a top 10 player for our team this year. But it never hurts to have depth. Never does. And also Chase Lucas, I guess, was playing some backup reps behind A.J. Parker today at the slot position. Speaking of A.J. Parker, they ended practice with an interception. Now, from what I've read, it sounds like Goff did pretty darn well today. Again, just take it however you want to take it. But at the same time, to end practice, A.J. Parker had an interception. It was a 3rd and 10. There was 10 seconds on the clock. So this is one of those 2-minute scenarios, it sounds like. And you're just trying to make a play, and A.J. Parker picked it off. Instinctually, he's there. I do wonder a little bit, was this in man coverage that he picked this off, or was this in zone coverage? I know it's like a weird little thing to think about, but I could definitely see this happening in zone because he just finds a way to get around the football. But with man coverage, I'm very interested to hear if he's getting picks in man coverage. Oh, now I'm very interested. Because I'm going to assume he's matching up with guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, things like that out of the slot. Now, according to Pride of Detroit, they said that the Lions offense, they had some issue with some of their processing. They said screens, were kind of thrown off a little bit. They held the ball too long. There was a couple of rollout plays where the quarterbacks got caught holding onto the ball too long. The plays were just a little bit slower to develop. It also sounds like they had a pretty good amount of success. And aside from that pick, DetroitLions.com said Jared Goff was pretty much crisp all day today in practice. And they actually gave a few clips. The DeAndre Swift one was beautiful. Oh, that thing was beautiful. So he's matched up one-on-one with Chris Board. It's funny because I was watching today the Dolphins back when Dan Campbell took over as the interim head coach. And the first game that I watched, I think it was like week 10. And they got their running back one-on-one on the outside. And it looked just like this play. Double move. Tannehill looks off the safety. Takes the matchup. It's all about matchups in the NFL. It always is. Find a way to get your matchup. And if it's man-to-man, you got the matchup you like. You try to take advantage of that matchup. And in this scenario, that's what the Dolphins did. It took advantage, double move, bam. Big play down the sideline on 3rd and long. DeAndre Swift on Chris Board. Chris Board has been getting some of these higher reps, specifically in sub package. He's been the top linebacker from what we're hearing. His background with the Ravens, and we're going to have to do a little bit of a breakdown on this guy very soon, but his background with the Ravens, playing third downs, blitzing, pass coverage, here, beat by DeAndre Swift. Put it right. I mean, that pass is pretty. Everything's pretty about this play. Everything is beautiful about this play aside from Chris Moore getting beat. But someone's got to get beat if there's a good play. It just has to happen. But my goodness, that is. And let's be real. I mean, look, Chris Moore can be a good coverage linebacker and still struggle with DeAndre Swift. I mean, that's just a tough matchup for any linebacker out there. But this thing was that was the thing of beauty. I'll take one more look at this play. So it looks like Quintez Cephas here is matched up against Jeff Okudah. And you're going to see him, watch him stare down Tracy Walker. That little hitch, boom, outside, and just drop it. Let's give a little shoulder shake there. Seems to be much more accurate from the plays that I've seen even going back to Cal when he's throwing it to the right side of the field. Now, we did see that big play to Quintez Cephas yesterday or maybe 2 days ago. But when he throws it to the right, maybe because it's the shorter side, those balls consistently come out on the money vertical. And also, speaking of touchdowns, how about this Amon-Ra St. Brown celebration? Okay, give us a little surfer celebration. I see you, St. Brown. little across the middle, AJ Park, you can see in coverage there. But there was a lot of good notes about crispiness today. Crispiness, I like that. Makes you think of chicken. For the Lions passing offense and Jared Goff. 3 touchdown catches for Derek Deese Jr. and Shane Zylstra, both heavily involved in the receiving game. And I bring that up because, again, remember Devin Funchess is dealing with this groin type of injury right now. We'll see how long that keeps him out. But his opportunities. And I think when you look at a guy like Derek Deese Jr., who is a former receiver, he can extend. He can catch in traffic. Derek Deese is one of the more fun UDFAs to watch. I mean, one of the most fun UDFAs to watch this offseason that we brought in. It's going to be a tough position to crack into because I just don't think we're going to hold very many tight ends. But for him, a guy that's a former receiver that will block, he was an inline player. And same thing with Shane Zylstra. Apparently, Shane Zylstra is just holding it down in the receiving game. I saw him make plays at OTAs too. I felt like at OTAs, initial impressions was, oh, hey, Shane Zylstra, he's kind of a playmaker. Now, there was no James Mitchell, but you're like, oh, he's making plays over the middle. There's a really good chemistry there with him and Goff, and we just keep hearing this pop up that Shane Zylstra is continuing to be involved in the passing game. So, good stuff there. That's another positional group to definitely watch the battle for. We know Hawks to 1. Detroit gave us some nice little UDFA updates. They said Josh Johnson beat Cedric Boswell on a touchdown in the corner of the end zone, and then Corey Sutton beat Iffy, who tried to jam him at the line of scrimmage, and I guess he had some success on a fade route touchdown. Here's what I'll say about Corey Sutton. Corey Sutton might be my favorite UDFA receiving signing that we've made. Corey Sutton is a player, man, and I understand it. He's going to be very tough for him to make the team because Khalil Pimpleton is just a different type, right? He's just a different element. He just brings something different. He's electric, and that definitely, that uniqueness can find a way for him to possibly surprise and crack the roster. I feel less of that for Corey Sutton because I know we got guys that can win on the outside with Cephas, whether that's Josh, whether that's DJ, whether that's JMO now. His size, his ability to run after catch, his movement skills at his size, he's a fun player to watch. So I look forward to kind of monitoring how these UDFAs perform and maybe trying to bring some more attention to them, once I start going to practice for sure. Line update, they told us that Matt Nelson did reps at right tackle while Penei Sewell took some reps at left tackle. So we know that we've been hearing Jonah Jackson's been taking reps at backup center. We heard today that Penei Sewell took some reps at backup left tackle. It's so hard, I think, to impress as a backup or third string tackle when you don't even have pads on, right? I mean, that's one of the positions where, like, dude, we at least got to get pads on before we're starting to say this stuff. So probably not. That's probably not what it is. I think they brought Darren Paulo for depth, not knowing what's going on with Dan Skipper. At least I don't know what's going on there, and we'll see it more and we'll learn more when they put the pads on. But either way, I think it's just a cross-training thing and understanding that, hey, we'll see what happens with backup left tackle, and maybe we have a guy that can hold that down because Matt Nelson's been doing a lot of right tackle work. But if he can't, Penei Sewell can play left tackle as we saw last season. Defensive line, a couple of updates. Isaiah Buggs getting reps with the second team behind Ali McNeil. That's awesome because I know they told us that they've monitored, are there guys out there that can give us a little bit more girth on the defensive line. And I've been rolling through some of the free agent names. Really, no one has stood out to me. I've been looking at different names in there. Maybe there's someone that catches my eye that I'll talk about. But as of now, I like Isaiah Buggs, and he could be that guy. He's here. He has the opportunity to do so, and we'll see. The Detroit Lions, it seems like, are going to give him a legitimate shot, and I hope they do. Young player, definitely a guy that I think can fill what they're looking for if he can perform. That's what it's going to come down to. Behind that, however, Jayshon Cornell has been continuing to get a pretty high role. They've been saying the fourth defensive tackle. He's basically playing like the Michael Brockers role. Now, the reason I bring this up is because it makes me think of what we were talking about yesterday with Rad and Josh Paschal dealing with the injury, having the surgery that he had. He's playing that role of Michael Brockers where it's really between 3-tech and 5-tech, right? That's kind of the role that he's playing. And like the diagram we put up yesterday of Michael Brockers playing 5, I actually saw it today. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he does this. Michael Brockers can play the 5-tech. So Jayshon Cornell is now getting some reps there. It makes me think of, well, again, if you don't have Josh Paschal to start the season, I think Michael Brockers is going to be a big part of this defense because I think he's going to be taking those roles. And if you don't have Romeo Okoro, Michael Brockers is going to become a big part of this defense because he's going to be playing that, to me, strong side defensive end. He's going to be your power end, and your rush end is going to be Aiden Hutchinson. You're going to allow him to go to work on the light side against your left tackles. I'm picturing that's how it's going to play out. And hearing this, that's what it sounds like. Jayshon Cornell played outside at Ohio State, then kicked in towards the end of his career at Ohio State, and he was much more dynamic. I think it was towards the end. He was much more dynamic from the interior as a pass rusher, much more impactful there as a pass rusher. And he is, as Pride of Detroit says, best suited, it seems like, for like a 3-tech, possibly to back up a guy like Levi, which is great. You can always have depth, especially after what he had to go through last year in terms of injuries. But with that said, they're now showing some flexibility with how they're utilizing him, and I think that's because you don't know if when Romeo's coming back. Same thing with Josh Paschal. He may not be ready for week 1. Someone's got to play that role, and to me, it's going to be Michael Brockers. He's going to be in a bigger role, but someone's got to be able to back that up, and that could be Jayshon Cornell. I want to make clear, I'm kind of talking about base package here. Of course, sub-package, things shift. You know, Hutchinson can bring interior presence. This guy, John Kaminsky, who apparently has been basically doing everything that Aiden Hutchinson has been doing. He's been backing him up from the 3-tech, from the interior, all the way to the outside. And as we talked about before, I see Charles potentially playing Sam for us. So if you come in a season without Romeo and Josh, this is what we could be looking at. Also, another UDFA. Shout to the UDFAs today. It's UDFA day. Demetrius Taylor had a strip sack after James Houston got pressure off the edge. I don't know on who, but that led to a strip sack by Demetrius Taylor. So you love to see it. Okay, Demetrius. He's another guy that can play a lot of spots. We talk about Jayshon Cornell. Hey, he's playing some 5-tech. I know that this guy has got a longer way probably to work up because he is a UDFA, but Demetrius Taylor, another guy that played on the outside in college at 290, 6'1", 290. He played at defensive end. Okay, so this is a player that versatile-wise can move across the line of scrimmage. He is extremely explosive. He is experienced. He's been productive for years. But it sounds like the Lions are starting to maybe give some of these rookies, slowly kind of moving them up, giving them some higher reps in different situations. As Kirby Joseph apparently took some reps today with the second team as they put Iffy on the third team. So giving some reps there. We'll see what that means. Does it mean anything about Iffy? I don't think so. I think it's just giving higher reps. And Malcolm Rodriguez also took some higher reps. The talk of the town for the last few days, Anthony Pittman, is playing everywhere from what we're told. He's playing Mike. He's playing Will. He's playing on the edge. And he's playing everywhere. He's working his way up. They were telling us, man, he's linebacker 4, right? He's working his way up this depth chart, and he's got to keep it down. I'm not completely bought in to say to the point where Anthony Pittman's making the team. I need to see it first. But with that being said, I did go back, checked out some of his film. He only played 76 snaps last season. And what you do see is that when Alex Anzalone went down, you see Atlanta, right? No Alex Anzalone. He took a lot of reps from Derek Barnes. So him and Jalen Reeves-Maybin played together. He took a lot of reps from Derek Barnes in a game like that. He wasn't consistently on the field, but he did take a lot of reps from him in a game like that. And I didn't realize how explosive Anthony Pittman was. He's a very explosive athlete. His back pedal is very fluid, and he seems to be pretty darn disciplined. He definitely has zone ability, and I didn't realize this. I don't remember seeing this, but I found this little quote as Anthony Pittman, when he was here in 2021, first year for Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. We always talk about weight changes. He was kind of asked to drop 15 pounds. The Lions wanted him to play interior linebacker because remember, with our pass regime, the flexibility between playing off-ball backer and edge backer was kind of a thing, right? So you had guys that were a little bit more bulked up, a little bit bigger, which is because of that experience, he may actually be able to play a depth edge, and that's probably why the Lions are experimenting with that. But he said this: ever since I met the new staff, speaking of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, I just wanted to show them I was here to work. That's what I'm all about. No matter what my opportunity is, I'm just working. Like Coach Glenn has told me, it's in my DNA. Whatever opportunity presents itself, it's the right one. That was the first year that he got here. So I'm reading that, I'm like, okay, Anthony Pittman, this guy's an athlete, and they were giving him some good reps there. He also played 378 snaps on special teams, so he played pretty much every special team snap he could last year for the Lions. So while it wasn't consistently on the field, there were times where you did see him, and it seems like the Lions have some build-up trust in him. Also, he's a Wayne State kid, so at the same time, we know Dan Campbell likes to get the guys that are in that area and keep those guys around. Absolutely a player to keep an eye on for sure. Agility didn't look great, but he did look pretty balanced. But with that said, man, he is an explosive athlete. He's got some good size. I don't know really where he's weighing at right now. He came out at like 236. I'm assuming he bulked up for the Patricia thing, and then he lost 15 pounds to kind of get back to it. So I'm assuming he's sort of in that range, probably the 240 range, like a James Houston type of size. I would assume that's kind of where he is. Malcolm Rodriguez played a little bit with the second and third team today, and he worked with Chris Board after practice. Now, Chris Board wasn't here last year, but Chris Board is a guy that's coming from a winning organization. So again, talk about these players kind of, it's a player-led team. Give the players that freedom, but also, hey, lead this team. This is your team. And when you do that, players have to step up. You can't have that and have no players do anything. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, we'll handle that. And they do nothing. You need to get together. You need to work. And you guys got to this is about you guys. And I think Dan Campbell's made that clear since he's got here. Chris Board working with him after practice. And again, as I said in yesterday's video, I think it's perfect. Malcolm Rodriguez's role of what Chris Board we're hearing him play, he's playing right now. And even I guess Anthony Pittman was playing some of the sub-down linebacker, one linebacker on the field. okay, something to keep an eye on. Zone, he definitely looks okay. I didn't see enough reps, though, to say what he could be in man coverage. With that said, though, that is the role for Malcolm Rodriguez to take, is just win. Third down sub package has Malcolm Rodriguez written all over it to me. Pass rush ability, former safety that can cover. He's got sideline to sideline speed. That's his role to take over. Agile athlete in coverage. That's his role to take over. It's just a matter of when. He's working with Chris Board after practice. You love to hear that. And finally, we got some cornerback updates. Something I was excited about. We talked about Will Harris. Savion Smith had a pass breakup today that led to an interception for Mike Hughes. It sounds more and more like if Chase Hughes is getting backup reps at slot, Mike Hughes sounds like he's going to be an outside cornerback. With that being said, though, the Lions are still experimenting. They're experimenting with that outside cornerback position. And I guess today it's been Savion Smith. It's been Bobby Price. Today it was Mark Gilbert that got the opportunity. Another guy I'm very interested in, because Mark Gilbert last season, a very small sample size in a game that had very bad weather conditions, definitely showed them things. This was a heck of a player at college that had a lot of injuries that he had to deal with, which really derailed the entire draft process for him. But he made some plays, and the play that he got beat on, he came back, forced a fumble. So another guy, we broke him down a little bit in our cornerback video, another guy that I'm a fan of. So look, I'm telling you, this cornerback group is legit. It's deep, it's legit, and good players will be getting cut. That's my take on it. That's what I believe, just from everything I've seen on these players, and I'm excited to see it. Finally, special teams continues to be Khalif Raymond versus Khalil Pimpleton, basically for punt returner with St. Brown mixing in, and as the personal protector in punt situations, talking about punt situations, CJ Moore still in the NFI list. So right now they were rotating between Tracy Walker and Brady Breeze. That's big for Brady Breeze. If he can find somewhere to try to plug in on special teams, that gives him the best shot to make the team, because it doesn't sound like he's getting very high reps at safety right now. So he needs to find a way to break into special teams. I'm a Brady Breeze fan personally, so I hope that he can do that. Shout out to Brady Breeze. All right, man, those are your takeaways from Detroit Lions Day 3 training camp. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. When I go to practice, I will give you guys my own notes. But until then, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.